and the juggernaut.
The juggernaut Zip T.
It's cold, man. It's only it's 52 here.
Yeah, I saw that tomorrow's going to be like 65 or 67 down here in Richmond. Yeah.
So, I mean, for May having had the air conditioner on last week, it's cold.
Yeah, 100%. All right, it's 7:00. Let's get started. Let me look. Yes, it is officially 7:00.
And we're old, so we get cold faster.
That's right, and we're old, so we have to get to bed soon. So we have to start now.
Okay.
Can't be up to all hours of the night.
That's true.
On the internet.
That's true.
It's just crazy talk. All right, here we go. Welcome to episode 11 of the Grumpy Brothers Sports Show on Millions. I am Chris Ludvigsen, joined by Ted. Say hey, Ted.
Hey.
Thank you to our listeners. Please check out our weekly podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Odyssey. And our topic tonight is the NBA, and with an interesting twist. During the weekly podcast, we talked about the 4 series that are ongoing. So tonight, and I thought this was a great idea on Ted's part, we're going to discuss the very high-profile franchise. And I think, Ted, each of them has future Hall of Fame players on them.
Oh, no question about that.
Yeah. I think Embiid's – anyway, so we're going to discuss, and there are 5, 2 in the East, 3 in the West, and what those teams can do, if anything, to improve their teams in the short term and become what they expect to be this year, title contenders. And none of them are, because all of them are out in the first round, or even in the Warriors' case, the play-in series. So let's start with the team that's near and dear to the Ludvigsons here, largely because of my son Robbie, his 76ers. We have another first-round loss for Joel Embiid. And I saw a press conference, Ted, where General Manager Daryl Morey said that they're going to build around the core of Embiid, Maxey, and head coach Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see that, but I saw a headline that said that was, they've got one part certainly right. They got the coach right, in the sense that, okay, we've decided it's the coach, or we decided this guy's the coach.
Okay, and so and we're going to talk about this when we get to the West, which is the Lakers and Suns have decided that Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel, respectively, were big parts of their demise, which we'll get to that. But am I hearing you say that you at least like they're taking a bit of an old-fashioned approach of saying Nick Nurse is our guy, and you players, if you don't like Nick, get on board with like Nick because he's our guy, and take that out of the equation?
I think that's a good place to start. He of all of them, who has the only championship? I'm just
True.
I don't know. Now he had Kawhi Leonard when he still wanted to play, and so and he had the Warriors.
And the Warriors were out without Durant and Klay Thompson.
Yeah, they were decimated by injury. Yes. So they may not have won, but he got to the finals and he beat the 76ers to get there. Now he got a little lucky with that shot that bounced around and finally went in, but he got there. So, at that point you have to start with, we got to start with someplace, and he's the guy we're going to start with.
So Ted, Daryl Morey has an interesting summer in front of him because there are 10 total free agents on the current 76ers roster.
Good. Well, normally you say the reason coaches are fired, right, is you can't cut the players. Well, they're leaving. Get them out.
Okay. That's one of the best lines you've had ever, Ted. So 2 of the 10 free agents are the aforementioned Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. Then also you have Kelly Oubre, Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield, and Cameron Payne and Nick Batum. And those Oubre, Lowry, Hield, Payne, and Batum at different points, even in the postseason, all made good contributions. Right. And to me, they all have value as good as we like to say rotation type players. Let's start with Maxey, because
Well, it sounds like they are. They sound, they said they're going to build around him as part
Okay,
of their
now
three. So clearly
he's
they're interested in him.
he's eligible for a 5-year max contract, something in the neighborhood of 45 to 50.
Wow.
Here's my comment. And one of the things I think we have to start doing is, because you and I are so incredibly old,
Yeah.
when we think of someone making $45 million a year to play basketball, we think, gosh, Michael Jordan wasn't even worth that.
Right.
So how can
Right.
anybody else? And certainly not Tyrese Maxey. So let's
Yeah.
take the number off the table and just say,
Right. No. It's TV. That's
right. But so here's the question. Is Tyrese Maxey a max player?
Well, no. But it doesn't really matter anymore. They have to, it's in their CBA that they have to spend a certain percentage of their money, right?
Yes. Now, if they sign him to a max, just he and Embiid alone are going to get them pretty close to the
Right.
minimum. So that's not the issue. I think they have to sign Tyrese, and Robbie said it the best way. The difference between what Maxey is really worth and the max is not so much that you just to take the drama out of it.
Yeah.
And
okay.
you've
I
said
can see that. Yeah.
he's part of the core.
Right. Well, you've already said it. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's pretty much a given that Maxey's going to be a 76er next year. And I think in the current construction of the team, he has to be.
Well, because they have 10 free agents, somebody's going
to. Well, no, but I mean, there's no. If you said, okay,
I get where you're going. Yeah.
If he's not, they might say, hey, he's not worth 45, 50. We're just going to go without him. Then they're really Joel every time down the court. So now, let's assume they sign Maxey. Let's start there. I think Tobias Harris, while he has had moments of very good play throughout his career, including his time in the 76ers. As I said 3 or 4 years ago, if the decision 3 or 4 years ago was Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris, they made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And if it was Tobias Harris versus Ben Simmons versus Jimmy Butler, they definitely made the worst decision.
Right.
But I don't think.
By the way, I saw something really funny about Ben Simmons. He went apparently to the Met Gala.
Okay.
And it said he was on the floor or in attendance or something like that for 231 minutes, and he played 165 minutes this year.
Yeah, that just about says
something
it all.
Like that. It was something like that. He spent more time at the Met Gala than he did in 6 months
playing basketball this year. But I think Tobias Harris is gone.
I saw something the other day, maybe I don't know, where they were trying to construct. Somebody was trying, how these writers like to construct trade, that they wanted to, I guess, sign and trade
Harris,
two or three of these guys, and bring Bridges back, who they drafted and then traded to Phoenix. And, New Jersey is in their constant state of disrepair. So 3 different guys, Bridges isn't going to win him anything by himself. But if you put him with Maxey and Embiid, now all of a sudden you've got
Ted,
3 pretty good players.
In the world of ifs and buts and candies and nuts, can you imagine if the Sixers had drafted Tatum instead of Markelle Fultz and it kept Mikal Bridges?
Well, but I mean, okay. But I'm just saying that as we are right now, that maybe they could figure out a way. Maybe there is a trade there that they could bring Bridges back. And
if you could make that happen, he'd be a perfect piece to pair with Embiid and Maxey. That would be a really good combination of players.
Now, what's the incentive for the Nets to do that other than...
I don't know what the Sixers have that they could trade that would be worth it for that.
Well, what they were saying is that they would take, pieces of all these 10 guys that are free agents.
Yeah, I get all of that, but why would the Nets want all of that dreck on their books?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the contracts turn out to be. I mean, if it's a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal, it's probably because the Nets are constantly, they're constantly rebuilding. So what's the difference to them? But I think if I was the Sixers, the first thing so we're going to sign the one guy, right?
We're signing Maxey.
And if you get Bridges or you make, whatever you do with these other 10 guys, you're going to keep a couple, you're going to let the rest go. My conversation has to be, and I don't know who does it, whether it's Morey, Nurse, some combination, if they can get Dr. J to do it, or I don't know. But somebody's got to tell Embiid he's not a point guard and get his backside under the basket because he can't move anymore. Or, his knees are so, I watched one of those games and he's trying to come up the court like he's a point guard. He can't move. And if I'm coaching against the Sixers and Embiid wants to take 10 threes,
beautiful.
Do it. Perfect.
Beautiful. In the game they stole, game 4 or 5, whatever it was, that they stole that last minute flurry, Embiid had a triple-double, but it was a triple-double because he had 10 turnovers.
Yeah. It's a Russell Westbrook dress triple.
There's a Gordie Howe hat trick and a Russell Westbrook triple-double.
He could get a quad with that.
So now I think Embiid's a little overweight because of the knee injury.
Oh, no, I understand that. His leg.
But you're exactly right, Ted. I think he needs to lose a little weight and he needs to stop
that
being
part I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about. But because he's had so many lower half injuries, playing point guard is not in his future. Okay. And the guy that I thought he always sort of compared to, and maybe this is the guy they have to talk to, is Olajuwon. Because Olajuwon moved well and all, but he didn't want to play point guard and he didn't want to shoot threes. He played the high post and then he would go down in the low post and he developed a couple of good moves down there. But he wasn't, when he got a rebound, here's Clyde Drexler, here's Kenny Smith. We're going to throw him the ball. We're going to run up the floor. Not this. I catch the ball, look around, and I'm going to take it, and then I'm going to make a move, and then I'm going to jack up a three.
Yeah. So Ted, let's okay. If I'm Daryl Morey, obviously we re-signed Paxson or Maxey rather.
You re-signed Paxson. You're really going back.
Yeah, we re-signed Maxey. I would try to re-sign at least 2 of 3 of Kelly Oubre, Buddy Hield, and Nick Batum, because they all shoot threes, and with Embiid as your centerpiece, you need guys to shoot threes. So I think I want at least 2 of those 3, preferably all 3 of those. But then even if you do that, let's say you don't get Mikal Bridges, and you have to go into the free agent market. Yeah. So the big names in the free agent market are led by LeBron. LeBron's not coming to Philadelphia. Let's take him off the list. Paul George is a free agent. He's a California guy. He's not coming to Philly. Klay Thompson, I don't think he's coming to Philly. So there are a couple of names here. Pascal Siakam, playing for the Pacers right now, is an interesting fit because he played with Nurse in Toronto. Yeah. And I like him as a player. I don't know if I like both he and Embiid in the post or in the paint all the time together. But there are 2 other guys.
Embiid's not there.
Well, but to your point earlier. But to your point earlier, if you can get him in the post,
then you don't have to go sign the other guy.
Right. But Ted, here's a guy there are 2 guys that I would put on my hit list if I'm Daryl Morey. One is DeMar DeRozan. He'd be great as a third guy.
Yeah.
When Embiid is off the floor, he becomes your first scoring option. And then there's another name, Ted, this guy I really like. He plays for the Sacramento Kings right now, 6th man extraordinaire Malik Monk. What I love about Malik Monk is he's a skinnier version of our guy from the Pistons in the Bad Boy days. The 6th man, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Vinny Johnson.
Vinny Johnson.
Yeah.
When Malik Monk comes on the floor, he can get his own shot.
Yeah.
And he can score.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems the Sixers have is they need someone who takes the reins when Embiid is off the floor, because when he was off the floor in the next game, if they were up by 6 when he came off the floor, they were down by 6 by the time he came back on the court. It was like a 10-point swing every time. So they got to do something with that. Let's move on.
That's why Daryl Morey gets the big money.
Yeah. But anybody who thinks LeBron is going to come play for the Sixers, that's crazy talk. He's not going to. No, it's not going to happen.
I don't. I watched one game and Buddy Hield was lighting it up, and I guess it just doesn't happen often enough, or he's a bad defensive player, or both, or whatever. But I didn't understand why they traded for him and then never played him, because there's one thing he can do is shoot.
Well, it's interesting. He was in the rotation in a big way, and then what I noticed is in the first and the second games against the Knicks, he went ice cold, and I think they pulled him out of the rotation, and they started giving Cam Payne some more minutes. And I like Cam Payne, but to your point, in this current world that we live in the NBA, Buddy Hield is an asset. I think if you trade for him, you have to get him on the court.
Well, that's the thing about whether it's him or any shoot, and they're gonna have their stretches where they don't make them, and then by sitting them down, they're not going to get better.
No. All right, let's move on to the Bucks, Ted.
Yeah.
One of the, if not the preseason Eastern favorite goes with the duo of Giannis and Dame, gets bounced in the first series by the Pacers. Now, injuries first to Giannis and then to Dame are obviously a huge factor.
Right.
But this team was not exactly rolling down the stretch.
Well, yeah. I mean, apparently they fired the coach last year.
In the middle of season this year.
No, they fired.
Budenholzer last year, and then this guy 30 games in this season. Yeah,
Griffin.
And
apparently during Griffin's tenure, they decided they didn't want to play defense anymore. So that's why he got fired.
Yep,
that was part of the reason why he got fired. And then Doc Auerbach comes in, and and he tries to get him to play some defense, and he's successful to a certain point, but it's tough in the middle of the year. And I'm just glad they somebody made the executive decision not to put Giannis out there with a bad leg. That was, if the reports of it being similar to Kevin Durant's injury before he blew out his Achilles were correct, then they certainly made, in my view, the right decision. We just sacrifice this year and move on.
We talked about it in our last Millions episode, and I saw someone on either ESPN or one of the major networks basically say that exact same thing. I thought, somebody's been listening to the Grumpy Brothers.
Sure.
And Ted. I said at the time, and I still say that I understand your premise, but I also think this is a very old team that's getting nothing but older with a very narrow window, and to give away a season while it makes sense.
Yeah, but what if you lose and he gets hurt and then he can't play all of next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think the Bucks are in a really horrible spot because, like I say, they're very old, and unfortunately, none of their really big contract guys are free agents this year.
Yeah.
So none of their big money deals come off the books.
Right.
So here are some of the free. Now, Giannis's brother, Thanasis, or whatever, they're going to resign him just to.
Well, he tore his Achilles.
Oh, did he?
He tore his Achilles working out or something. So, yeah, he's out for the year, I guess.
So a couple of the big questions are Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley can be a light on fire wing scorer, but then he goes games where he goes completely absent. Patrick Beverley. Doc loves him.
There's some issues there now because of he's already been suspended, and apparently he's about to be prosecuted by the city of Indianapolis or whoever
for that incident
with the ball. Yeah, so he's apparently been charged somehow, or they're looking into it. I guess he hasn't been charged, but they are looking into it as some sort of legal thing.
Now, you also have Jai Crowder and Danilo Gallinari, 33 and 35. Both of them have been good role players off the bench that can make threes, but they're old and they're expensive. I think they're gone. They have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, and Pat Connaughton, who are all going into the last year of their contracts.
Okay.
But I don't see how you can move Lopez or Portis because those are your two big guys.
No, they're not going anywhere. I don't, unless they get a big back, somehow.
Right. So my thought is you take Beverly's money, you take Crowder's money, you take Gallinari's money, and you try and find someone who will take Pat Connaughton on a trade
Yeah.
because it's an expiring contract and certain
Yeah,
teams
somebody
love
will do
expiring
that. Yeah.
contracts. And you try and take all that money together and find one potentially younger, but definitely someone that can play and contribute. Because we haven't even talked. So Ted, and let's completely back up for a second. The NBA, while it is not a hard cap, does have a salary cap.
Yes.
All right. And I love my numbers, Ted. The 2024-2025 salary cap, NBA salary cap, is set at $141 million, which is actually down $1 million from this past season. There is a $127 million minimum, to your point from a little while ago.
Yeah. Okay.
But now here's the thing. Like I said, it's not a hard cap,
Right.
because after 141, then the luxury tax is triggered at 171. So I don't know how 141 is a cap if the trigger doesn't get hit until 171. But anyway, then 171.
That's a squishy 30.
Adam Silver.
Your bench guys. Those are the bench guys.
But here's the thing. And then they have this first apron and second apron. And basically, Ted, once you go over the cap, it impacts your ability to make trades with signing trades. And it makes you more difficult to get, have these mid-level exemptions and veteran exemptions and all these crazy things that they put in there. Once you go over the cap, it's much more difficult to do a lot of those other things, to do deals in the middle of the season. But here's the thing, Ted. With Giannis, Dame, and Middleton, they're at almost 92% of the cap. Just 3 players.
Yeah, that's no good.
So, but again, all of these owners that have money, they don't seem to care going over the cap.
No.
But it is something to be considered. So I don't see that you're going to I don't think you're going to move Dame. No one's going to take on that $60 million a year 1 year later. That's not going to happen.
No.
I don't think you can move Giannis, even though.
Well, I think people would take him if they felt he was healthy. The question is, see, what do you get back? But also, I would think he's difficult to play with. It's a very, and I think his style of play may have to change, much like Durant and going back, Michael Jordan, even though he really wasn't an injury. As you get older, you just can't keep going to the rim all the time. Your legs go, you get hit more often. He's going to have to learn how to shoot.
Now, when you said he's difficult to play with, I think I know where you're going, which is not that he's a bad person or a bad
No.
But that his style play, he has to have the ball.
Yes.
You have to free up the lane for him, because if you have someone in the lane, it eliminates his ability to go to the basket. That's why Brook Lopez is such a great fit as a big man, is he's learned how to shoot the three so effectively. Yeah. So I think that's another reason why you have to have both Lopez and Portis come back, because they're really good 3-point shooting big men. And you need at least some big men still in the NBA.
Right.
Ted, I just don't see – again, I keep on coming back to I understand your point about it was the right long-term decision. I just don't see a long-term of potential here.
Okay. They weren't going to win it anyway.
No, but but based on where they are and what they have left on this roster, and in my opinion, the very limited amounts of moves that they could make.
No, they're not. No, I don't see it either.
Next year, unless something dramatic happens with the Celtics, they're not going to be better than the Celtics.
No.
And we talk about trading Giannis. The only team that would take Giannis on, I think, is a team that is what they think is a superstar away from being a title contender.
Right.
And how do you fit his salary into that team? Because all of the other teams are already over the cap.
Right.
I don't see.
I understand what you're saying.
On one hand, the Sixers have everybody that's a free agent,
right,
and not enough valuable pieces left after Maxey and Embiid. On the other hand, the Bucks are so full of pieces that aren't coming off the books anytime soon. I don't see how they. if they had made it to the 7th game of the Eastern Finals this year, if Giannis was healthy and they lost 119 to 117 on the 7th game in Boston, right? You would go, okay, add a piece here, give Doc a full season.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe they get over the hump next year. I think they shot their load last year. They said we're going in 100%. They brought Dame in, and it didn't work.
Right. It's not going to work. Barkley said it on the TV with I forget. I think he was talking about the Warriors. Was old players don't get better.
Yeah.
And and unfortunately, because in all sports, not just basketball, but all sports, they tend to pay guys for what they did in the past and not what they're going to, and they end up, and then lots of times teams end up in this where they have guys that are making way too much money who can't play anymore.
When we lived in Philadelphia, I'm trying to remember who the general manager of the Eagles was at the time. And he had a rule that I think he only broke in the case of the great safety, the really big hitter that played for the Eagles.
Not Waters.
Yeah. He was the only free agent that I remember them signing after he hit the age of 30.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was his rule.
Yeah.
And I remember Belichick, like he got rid of Richard Seymour when he was still a top defensive lineman in the league. And Belichick always said, I'd rather get rid of someone a year too early than a year too late.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway. All right, let's move to the West, Ted. And again, by law, we have to talk Lakers.
This is easy.
So they fired Darvin Ham. In his 2 seasons, Ham was 90 and 74, 55% winning percentage. And he got into the Western Finals last year.
Yeah.
He's not Red Auerbach, and he's not Red Rivers or Doc Auerbach, however you want to refer to him.
He's not Phil Jackson. He's not,
But the head coach was not the issue.
Well, I mean, maybe there are things where they said, well, they weren't prepared right, or or they didn't. Some people would criticize what he did. No, but look. Here's what you do: you go to James. By the way, he's something of a coach killer. He is.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
The only one he didn't really take out was Spoelstra and Tyronn Lue. And he left Tyronn on his own.
And he left Spoelstra on his own.
Well, there was some story years ago. I have no idea if it was true, but his first year in Miami, he went into Pat Riley's office and said, And Riley told him to go pound sand. And if his contract wasn't so complicated, he might have done the Vince Lombardi, Jim Ringo thing. He said, wait a minute, let me make a phone call.
Let me leave the office for a minute. Yeah.
You're going to Sacramento.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
But if I was the Lakers, and one of their guys that they thought that they were going to approach about the coaching job's already off the table, right?
Which is who?
Budenholzer.
Yeah. Budenholzer's not officially taken the Suns job yet, but it's almost certain that he is.
Okay. So, why don't you just go to LeBron and say you coach him? Okay.
So Ted, that's been bandied about. In the current CBA, it's been outlawed.
Okay.
Because the premise is that you could pay LeBron $40 million to be the coach, and $1 million to be a player, and then open up all kinds of cap space.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Now I don't see why they just couldn't say any salary he gets all goes to his playing.
Well, but they didn't write it that way. So, and this is the CBA they have right now. Okay, so this is a month, but yeah, I mean, because the guy's not going to do it because it's his job. You be the GM. You find the players because you wanted Anthony Davis. And so far with Anthony Davis, you've won the title in the bubble, which is a title, and it was the one they were playing for. But is it really the title that everybody else, would he put it on the same pedestal as the ones other places? And they gave themselves the participation banner for winning the in-season tournament. Really? You think Michael Jordan would have had anything to do with anything like that? No, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they would have burned that thing down before it was let up.
All right. Now, the name I'm hearing, Ted, is our guy from Duke, JJ Redick.
Well, he was supposed to be hot. They were supposed to be in Charlotte hot for him, right?
Well, that would make sense also because of his Carolina ties.
But they hired somebody.
Oh, did they? I didn't see.
They hired his last name, I think, is Lee. He was an assistant coach with the Celtics. I think he's an assistant coach with the Celtics. So when they're done, he becomes the Charlotte head coach.
So JJ is a smart guy. He clearly knows more about basketball than we do. Seems like a very big leap to take someone that's never been a coach in any way that I'm aware of into the Lakers job. But LeBron likes him, so that's probably why it's going to happen. Now, LeBron is a free agent. I personally think LeBron, while he might give some signals that he's thinking about leaving, I saw the numbers once, Ted, of what his personal wealth, the value of his personal wealth, his business empire, and how that has completely skyrocketed since he's been in LA and been able to have access to all of the people in LA for all of his off the court endeavors. I don't think he's leaving in LA, and he's not going to go play for the Clippers.
Why not? Why not? They have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden, all free agents or expiring contracts. They could get rid of all of them, bring him in, and they would fill the place up.
See, I think the exact opposite is going to happen. So, okay,
I think he's going to stay with the Lakers, and he's going to force them to draft his son.
Well, yes. Now I've heard that they would use the 55th pick, which seems about right. I don't think anybody's going to take Bronny before then. But here's the thing, Ted. So on their free agency list after LeBron, D'Angelo Russell is a free agent. I think he's gone. He's just too inconsistent.
I read somewhere he was on his cell phone in a team huddle during a playoff game.
Oh, no.
Now, if that's true,
oh my God.
He's gone. He's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So here are also guys that are all free agents. Spencer Dinwiddie, the big man Jackson Hayes, Taurean Prince, and Cam Reddish. If you sign one or two, I could see them bringing Taurean Prince back because he's a good wing defender, can shoot three. He might fit in. Maybe Jackson Hayes as a backup center because, AD doesn't like playing center, so you have to have someone to take that. But, here's the thing. LeBron's going to be 40 next year.
Yeah.
But he's still a top 10 player in the league.
Yeah, but
listen to the stats, Ted.
It's going backwards, though.
I get it, but listen to the stats. He played 71 games.
Yeah.
He averaged 35 minutes a game. Not 54% from the field, 41% from three, averaged 25.7, 8.3 assists, 7.3 rebounds. I don't like, to your point earlier, how he tries to be GM coach plus star player.
Yeah.
But
he's still a good player. There's no two ways about it.
And he's you can't, if he says to you and says, hey, I want to come back, you can't push him out the door. He's going to be there.
I would think, yeah, and maybe he's got so much money now. Maybe he would take a little less to stay, so that they can build around him.
Okay, now let's go down that path. So AD, for while we all think, and I think correctly so, that at times he can not be the most consistent guy in the world. Ted, here's AD's stats from this year. He played in 76 games.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Averaged 35 and a half minutes, 24.7 points, and 12.6 rebounds per game. LeBron and Anthony Davis, if they both stay healthy and play at least 70 games, here are the other guys that will be on the team next year. Austin Reeves, not a star, but he's a really good player. And then guys like Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent are all solid pieces that can kind of do their things. So now you've got AD and LeBron and those four guys. The guy I would go after when you mentioned the Clippers, I'd go across town and try and take Paul George and have him say, hey, you like playing in LA? Just come across and play with the big boys.
Well, I'd like to get a little younger than him.
I would too, but
I do see that they have a very, very short window to really try and win something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
More
what
than
I like
the
about
in-season
Paul George is he'd be. We talked earlier about the trio of players
Yeah.
for the Sixers. LeBron still wants to be the primary ball handler, point guard, point forward, whatever you want to call him. AD does his thing, and George can guard a good wing player on the other team. He can make threes. When LeBron's off the court, he can be the primary scorer, primary ball handler, along with Reeves. And I personally think that if you put those three as their core, then Reeves is a starter, and then you fill in with the other guys around him.
They need to find themselves a big guy.
Yeah.
And let Davis be a power forward if that's what he wants to be.
Well, and that's the interesting thing because, from my understanding, Davis does not want to be a center. He wants to be a power forward. But, and this is the interesting thing for so many years since the Warriors, and we're getting off topic now, but I think it's a good, interesting topic. For so many years, it was all small ball, and 5 out and all of that stuff. No one above 6'7". Then the Nuggets with Jokic win the title.
Right.
And now the Timberwolves are getting ready to bounce them out with not only one big guy, but 2 big guys.
Right. Right.
Is it possible the wheel is turning back and the next wave is going to be 2 big guys playing together?
You're going to go get Zach Edey and put him in the middle. That would be a great team for him to be on because he wouldn't be expected to be a star. Rebound,
block shots and rebound.
And then when you make it up the court, if we haven't scored yet, maybe we'll work it into you.
Now, Ted, one other point about this. If they bring LeBron back at his current salary, with LeBron, AD, Hachimura, Reeves, and Vincent, they're already at 96% of the cap.
Yeah.
Now, while LA is an incredibly glamorous city to play in, I think a lot of people would love playing with LeBron. And while they're well-known family, the Buss family is great owners based on what the father did, they are not one of the more wealthy families or ownership groups in the NBA.
Right. Yeah, he was a dentist.
Yeah. And so while I'm sure the team throws off an enormous amount of money,
yeah,
it's not like the owners of the Warriors, I think, are I don't know if they're tech or real estate guys. The Warriors ownership has more money than they know what to do with. They don't mind going over the salary cap. They have for years and years and years. But the Buss family might look at it and go, "Wait a second, we're already at 160 million. You want me to now pay another 40 million to Paul George?"
Right. So yeah, I mean, and there is the new TV contract thing working out, so that may change how teams look at things because they're all going to get a little more money.
Yeah. Let's move to the Suns, Ted. And if the Bucks are in a horrendous place in the East, the Suns might top the list of all of these teams in terms of the worst position. Now, the new owner, Matt Ishbia, I think is how you pronounce his name. Anyway, I saw a press conference with him recently. He said, "We're in great shape."
Yeah, he's a very positive guy. Yeah, he's a very positive guy. Yeah.
Okay.
You've just fired a coach, and now you're on the hook for $25 million to him. To not coach. I thought that Frank Vogel, who focuses on big guys and defense, I thought it was an odd fit to begin with, bring him in with this particular group with the Suns. It was always an odd fit because he actually wants to coach, and Durant was like, we don't need any of that.
So we're back to the Nets days.
Yeah. So I wonder if JJ Redick would be a better fit for them there because he had that was what he did when he had Nash, and Nash had never coached anywhere, and he said, "Yeah, we're just going to coach ourselves, and we'll talk to Steve once in a while." Yeah, and that didn't work out so well.
I actually think Budenholzer is actually a better fit because I think he's a more of an offensively minded coach. So I think that's actually a better fit. I don't know that, in using your famous nomenclature, it's not like they're bringing Red R back in. I don't think replacing Vogel for Budenholzer is going to suddenly magically make this whole mishmash of a team work perfectly.
But he does have a title.
Hey, Vogel has a title.
Yeah, he did, but that was in
from the
that
bubble.
was in the bowl. So I guess players don't look at that one the same way. But he does have he does have a title, and he was used to working with a kind of an odd team with Milwaukee, where it was kind of an odd setup. So this might work.
Now, Ted, we talk about finances.
Yeah,
The trio, the big three of
yeah,
Durant, Booker, and Beal, by themselves are over the salary cap. Those three
yeah,
players are $150 million. So then you add the two other starters, Jurkic and Grayson Allen. They're at 184 million. They're almost at the second apron just from their starting five.
yeah. You'd think they're going to have to make some moves somewhere.
Okay, now before we talk about moves, and we talked about this, and I think we both made this point when they signed for Beal, and everybody was anointing them the Western
Right.
Conference finalists. Booker, Beal, and Allen are all really good players, all in their own unique ways, and they're all backcourt players, but none of them is a point guard.
No.
And, you know, I have enjoyed watching the Pacers in the playoffs because it allows me to get reacquainted with the greatness of TJ McConnell. A point guard that plays like a point guard.
Right. Right.
Gets the ball to the right player, plays good defense, and when he has an open shot, he takes it. He's a point guard. It has value, kids. Hey, let's remember the Suns made the finals with Chris Paul.
Right. Right.
Now, this team, in my opinion, is horribly constructed. I don't know what they do to make a big move to change the dynamics, or however you want to. What you're the general manager. What are you doing, Ted?
Well, I don't think, without the salary cap, you have to hope you hit lightning in a bottle with somebody's retread or something like that. You have to hope that you find a Gabe Vincent that year in Miami to come in and sort of run the offense for next to nothing, as a player.
Maybe
I
you
think
find someone late in the first round or early second round in the draft.
And you don't have to pay him a ton of money. And the other thing you have to hope for is that Durant and Beal in particular can play enough games, because that was part of their deal this year. Beal didn't play what he played.
Beal played 53 games, Ted.
Yeah, right. And probably some of those games he was at, a part-time player because he was coming off the back injury or whatever it was. And so they ended up in the play-in tournament, which they, it's fine. It's fine. Well, not so much, you got it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you don't want to be in that thing. That's, nobody's advanced. Nobody has, I guess Miami was the one team that, and that was just a little bit of luck. So
Ted, I've heard a lot of people talk about what the Suns should do or could do personnel wise. And it comes back to trading one of the big three.
Yeah.
So Booker would clearly get you the most bang for the buck.
No question. Not even close to a question.
But if I'm the Suns, I'm not even thinking about that.
No, you can't trade him because he plays.
Okay. Beal, he's 31, Ted.
Yeah.
And I looked this up. He's 31. He's making $50 million a year. He played 53 games, averaged 18 points a game. 2 years in a row in Washington, back in between 17 and 19. He played all 82 games for 2 years in a row. In the 5 years since then, he has not played more than 60 games in a season.
Yeah.
He's the guy that would make the most sense to move, because Durant, for all of his issues, is still a top 10 to 15 player all time.
Right.
So Beal is the guy that you'd want to move, but he has 2 more seasons plus a player option for a third year left on his contract and a no trade clause.
Going to be tough. It's going to be tough to move. Yeah.
So now that leaves you with Kevin Durant.
Right.
Now, Kevin Durant I think still has value. He has 2 years left on his contract. But Ted, listen to the numbers from last year for Durant. He played 75 games.
Yeah.
Shot 52% from the field, 41 from three, 86 at the free throw line. Played 37 minutes a game, averaged 27 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists per game. So he has value.
Right.
A team like, now, I don't know if Thibodeau would want him on the Knicks. I don't know that he's the right.
He's not a Thibodeau. Yeah, he's not a Thibodeau type player.
But can you imagine if you could make him work philosophically, what that would do to it? I mean, that would take if you
I get where you're going. I think that the bigger problem would be for Thibodeau to accept that
100%. I'm just
not Durant.
Let's
not Durant's problem. This would be a Thibodeau problem. It would not be a Durant problem.
Okay, let's say we get all of that worked out. If you had the currently constructed Knicks as they are, let's say you said, okay, we'll give you Julius Randle and a few other pieces for Durant.
Yeah.
So you take the Knicks team that's playing so well together right now. You keep the Villanova trio together, and you add on Kevin Durant onto that with and you make the two big men healthy.
And he takes the pressure off Brunson.
Brunson doesn't have to score 40.
Right.
That makes that Knicks team a legitimate contender. If you
certainly in the East, yeah.
If you told me the current Celtics played that potential Knicks team in the Eastern Finals next year, I think I would take the Knicks.
It's at worst a toss-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing, Ted. So whether it's the Knicks and I've also heard people say, what about trading Durant to the Heat? And again, I don't know if Riley and Spoelstra would want him either.
Yeah, right.
But again, for a team like the Heat,
I think they would.
Much trouble scoring.
That makes more sense in a what do you want to call it? A culture, team culture sense. I think Riley can get there, and I think then by Spoelstra, because I read something, I forget who it was. It said Pat's cool about everything unless you don't win. And Durant wants to win. There's no two ways about it. He's a guy who wants to win. He wants to win outside of having won with the Warriors.
Yes, but I don't know that Durant has either the leadership skills and or the ability to change his personality in such a way that he becomes a winner unless he's with the other winners.
Well, if Jimmy Butler is
the Warriors and they won, but
if you have Jimmy, but if you didn't have to lose Jimmy Butler
and Bam Adebayo and you dropped him
and you dropped him in as the third guy,
that'd be a really good team.
I think they would have a chance for the next couple of years.
But here's my point about Ted. Let's say that you're the Suns general manager and you're thinking about these possibilities.
Yeah.
And you've whittled it down to, I'd really like to, let's say you've done the same thought process that you and I have done here, and you've whittled it down saying, I'm not going to move Booker. He's too valuable.
Right. And
I can't move Beal. No one's going to take Beal, and he's got no trade. Durant's the only piece that I can move to make a substantive change to the roster.
Right.
That's a lot of production to make up for, Ted. He's still a really productive player.
But he is how old?
35, I think.
One Achilles injury. He's not. There's unlikely a increase in production. There's almost assuredly a decrease. At best, it's status quo. And yes, there's a lot to make up. But what did you win with him this year?
Nothing.
Okay. Nothing. You didn't even win the in-season tournament. You don't even get that banner. So, and you lost a coach. You fired the coach because you didn't think. Now, you might think because this guy is a positive thinking guy, wow, it's just the coach problem. Bring a new coach in and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Maybe it will. I don't think so.
I think that's an interesting comment because I do think that there is a illusion among certain fans and possibly people involved in the game who don't ever want to say it's the player's fault.
It's never the player's fault. Yeah.
And, while Frank Vogel, again, I don't think is the next Phil Jackson or Red Auerbach, he was good enough to take some average Pacers team in the East and give huge series to the LeBron-led Heat. Those were great series.
Yeah.
He did win a somewhat tainted title, but it's still a title in the bubble.
It's the title that everybody else was playing for.
Right. So he is not a bad coach. It might have been a bad fit.
It might have been a bad fit.
But this expectation to me is a bit Pollyanna-ish, that if you're going to think you're going to make that one change and all of the pieces are going to magically fall into place. Now, you hear about coaches, quote unquote, losing the locker room.
Yeah.
Maybe Vogel just never was able to connect with these guys.
That's right. Yeah.
So that the guys were they thought they were playing at 100%, but they really weren't. But I don't know, Ted, when you don't have a point guard and you have a defensively minded coach, it seems like a lot of possessions end up exactly what they were with the Suns, which is one of the three big going hero ball to score.
Sure. Right.
Instead of running a cohesive offense that actually has a game plan associated with it.
And they may have had a better plan, and then you lose Beal for a third of the season, half the season, whatever it was. He played 50-some games, so you lose him for essentially a third of the season. And then he's got to work his way back into it. And
there's no cohesiveness.
And Durant got hurt a couple times, so,
And I will say this, I will have to give Bradley Beal credit. When I watched them at the end of the year and the small time they spent in the playoffs, it looked to me like Bradley Beal had accepted the fact that he was the third scoring option and he was becoming sort of the de facto point guard. So he would bring the ball up, he'd try to get him in their offense. So I give Beal credit for that. And
he's never a problem in terms of, all that kind of other stuff.
Right.
It's just
he's a good guy. He's a good teammate.
He doesn't stay healthy.
And here's the other thing I'll say about this. Let's assume that the Timberwolves knock out the Nuggets in 4 or 5 and then go to the NBA Finals. Whether they win or not. Let's say they go to the NBA Finals. That loss by the Suns to them then doesn't look quite as horrible.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Even if the Timberwolves knock out the Nuggets in the fifth in 4 or 5 games and then lose a 7-game series to the Thunder.
Right. Not so bad.
Right. Then you look at it and go, well, wait a second. Maybe we weren't quite so awful as we thought we were if that team is that good.
But that's a very positive spin because you still have stuff to fix.
Oh, 100%.
And you don't have a lot of room in terms of the money to fix it. So you have to go either if you keep this bunch together, you have to kind of find lightning in a bottle somewhere to run.
And they just signed Grayson Allen to like an $18 million a year contract. So they're just, they like spending money in Phoenix. Yeah. And I like, Allen for them serves a very specific role. He defends the best player on the other team. He shoots threes. He's tough. He's scrappy. He has value on that team, but
let maybe Beal decide they figure Beal, they talk him into he becomes the point guard down the road. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they talk Durant into playing some sort of LeBron point forward type deal.
Yeah. All right, Ted, the last team is one that I don't think you thought was quite fitting into the other 4, but I want to discuss it anyway, which is the Warriors. Now, the Warriors are different than these other 4 in large part because they have a very good coach in Steve Kerr with titles who has legitimate gravitas in the league as one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the league.
Yeah.
They've still got a great superstar in Steph Curry who legitimately makes the players around him better.
Right.
And they have a culture, and they have a very good culture of here's how we do things here, and you either fit into that culture or you don't.
Or you're Jordan pulled out. Right.
Right. But they do have some questions.
Sure.
Now, they don't have a lot of free agent moves to make. The biggest one, though, is Clay. Steve Kerr at the end of the year. Steve Kerr and Steph both say they want him back.
Well, yeah, they have to say they want him back. But and I'm sure they both do because they know him, they know how it works, and he knows how it works. And all that. But they have a personal relationship with the guy, and Clay seems like a decent guy. Yeah, but he's got leg injuries, and he's not getting any younger.
Yeah. Okay, so you're now if Clay came to you and said, "Hey, look, I know I'm not the player I was anymore. I've made I've got more money to know what to do with. Give me $7 million a year, and I'll come off the bench.
Oh, that's different. That's a different thing. Yeah,
but not $25 million a year.
No, if he wants starter money to be a part-time starter, no, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
No.
All right, now I think they've got two other big decisions to make. In a perfect world, they'd be able to rid themselves of the Chris Paul contract, but he's got another year left, and I don't think anybody's going to take that salary.
Yeah. Well,
there could be a team
somebody
out there may sign contract. They might take him, and they might take him to then be trade deadline target for a good team.
Right.
So maybe. Okay, but Ted, here are the two decisions I think they've got to make a decision on, or figure out what they're going to do. Andrew Wiggins,
wow,
was not a bust before he came to the Warriors, but he was not living up to his first.
He was a disappointment. How about a disappointment?
Disappointment. Very good word. Very good word. So then, in that fourth magical title run over the Celtics, Andrew Wiggins was not good. He was great.
Great. I mean, he was everything that they thought
he was supposed to be when he was the first player pick. He was a great defender. He shot the three. He went to the ball, took the ball to the basket. He was an elite player for a little window of time.
He won the title for him.
Yes. And
in one sense.
They awarded him with a big contract. Now, Ted, he's making $26 million a year, which these days with people making 50 is an outlandish, but still it's a big number. But he's regressed. Now they've got him at that 26 to 30 number for another 3 years. In this past year, he averaged 13 points a game.
Yeah, well, he did have some sort of issue where he disappeared from the team.
He's had 2 seasons in a row. He's had some kind of personal issue that we've never learned what it is.
Yeah. And I don't think that the 13 points, I think they'd like to see him more around 17 or 18.
Yeah.
But it's the defense and the other stuff. If he showed up and played 70 games and gave them 30 some odd minutes and played and did 17, 18 points and did all the other stuff, guarded
and was
the best.
Was the guy who took Booker or the guy who covered Anthony Edwards.
Yeah. That's what they want out of him. I don't think they're that worried about his scoring. 15, 17, 19, great. But he's got to be on the court enough to at least harass the other guy.
And you think about who they'd have to be guarding in the West these days.
Right.
It's SGA, it's Anthony Edwards, it's Luka, it's
Murray,
and it's I just said it. Who was the other one I'm thinking of? Booker. So virtually every good team in the West has a wing/guard player that runs the team offensively.
Right.
That you need. So you don't want Steph guarding him.
No, you can't.
Steph's a willing defender, but he's not a good defender.
Well, not only that, you don't want him wasting or not
all of his energy,
but using a lot of energy on defense when you want him to score 30.
Pod's the young guy. I like him as a player. He's a good defender. I like, but I don't think he's big enough to guard Luka and those kinds of guys. So Wiggins has value. To your point, maybe it was just that all of these off the court issues were weighing him down. He just could never get his head straight. And maybe he does bounce back to be something closer to the player that he was in that title run. Then, of course, you've got Draymond. Now,
here's the thing about Wiggins: we don't know. They know.
Yeah.
And if they know and they can and they don't think it's going to get better and they can extract themselves from the contract, they will do it.
Yeah.
But if whatever the situation is resolving itself or being resolved or is resolved, then they can hope he'll come back. His mind will be, all and there,
and he can contribute again.
And he'll get himself in game shape and stay there.
Yeah. All right, now Draymond. I had an epiphany when he came back. Draymond ever since the Warriors have been the Warriors in this current run. Draymond very quickly vaulted to my least favorite player in any major sport. The guy just rubs me the wrong way in every aspect. But when he was out for most of this season, because of his knuckleheadedness, which I think is now an adjective, Um, and then he came back, and you immediately saw that their offense ran better and they were better defensively. It clicked to me, and you watch him play again with him, and he's a good passer. He defends everybody on the court. He gets people in the right spots, and he does. And it when you have a finesse team like the Warriors are a finesse team, it's nice to have one enforcer.
Right, they have to have a bouncer. Yeah.
So I think you need Draymond. So I don't think you can move him, but to your point from earlier, someone's got, whether it's when you said it's Daryl Morey or Nick Nurse or somebody has to get in Embiid's head, somebody has to go to Draymond and say, hey, look, dude, what are you doing here?
Yeah, right. You're killing us. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
now you hope he would learn that he kind of figured that out this year on his own, where he missed so much time and he realized how much he was hurting the team by not being here. You hope that that's sort of permeated his being now, but like you said, somebody somewhere, whether it's with the organization, outside the organization, has to, you would hope, can get through and say, listen, you only got a couple years left. Don't spend it on the suspended list.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I think Draymond, because he slipped to the second round, because people doubt him, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, not only visibly in terms of how he conducts himself on the court, but I think it also is a big factor on why he's such a good player. He plays with such great intensity. And, there's one part of me, I was just thinking this through in my head. Someone could come to him and say, hey, look, Draymond, you've accomplished so much. You're a Hall of Famer. You've got 4 titles.
Yeah.
Like, you've arrived, guy. You don't have to prove it anymore. But if you say that to him, does that make him then go and take the pedal off the gas a little bit? So you walk that fine line between.
You do want him to take just like count to 5 before you.
Right.
Just, okay, somebody does something or says something to you. Take a step back and go, is this worth a 20-game suspension? Is this worth a $100,000 fine?
You know what I just thought of? I think it was the golfer Louis Oosthuizen when he won the British Open. He had this thing in his pre-swing routine where after every shot, he would leave his golf glove unlatched, right, unvelcroed. And as he was in his pre-shot routine, he would lock that down. And he said that was one of the things that kind of triggered his mind into, okay, now it's time to hit a shot and get my mind right. And I'm wondering if you could say to Draymond, hey, look, Draymond, we're going to put this little, all those guys, they all wear the little bands, like Lance Armstrong yellow bands.
Yeah.
We put a red one on your wrist.
Yeah.
But that's your fire band. When something makes you think that you're going to go fire, take that thing and just snap it off your wrist before you decide to say anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Something. Yeah. You would hope whatever it is would, whether it's physical or a mental thing, whatever, that he would just take that moment to just go, is it worth 20 games? Right. Is it worth 100,000?
Because if he hadn't been suspended all those games, they would not have been in the play-in tournament. Right. And they might have won a first series round against
whoever.
The
might
Clippers.
Have beat Dallas or whoever.
Or Dallas, yes. Because with a healthy Steph and a healthy Draymond and Kerr coaching, in short bursts, and that's what I kept on saying as I watched that team, when they were fully constructed, they could play head-to-head with just about anybody in the league.
Well, they know how to beat
in short bursts.
Yeah, they know how to beat everybody. So they just have to get to the playoffs, and then 7-game bursts. They can win 4 against anybody. Yeah. It's just so frustrating when you watch something like that, because you think about, in Green's case in particular, they should have one more title. If he doesn't lose his mind against LeBron in that dust up they had that one year, they probably win the 5th game and they don't have to worry, and so they can always, they could be going like this with rings on every, and
then you'd be having an interesting conversation. Everybody wants to compare LeBron to Michael Jordan. If they had won that 5th, then Curry would be sticking his hand up and go, wait a second, I got 5. Where am I in this discussion?
Right.
Now, I don't think he belongs in the discussion.
No, It's
with Jordan,
different.
but in the current world that we live in,
yeah,
people would be saying, "Oh yeah,
yeah.
Steph Curry's the greatest player, Michael Jordan."
No, but that's okay. No, they're probably pretty competitive on the golf course.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Ted, we hit them all. It's been right about an hour. That's about good timing.
Yep.
Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything else?
No. I thought about it, and no. Then we get into the podcast. And, I will be very interested to see if Milwaukee stays. Because are they going to keep Rivers as the coach and give him a full year and a training camp and all that kind of stuff and influence? And I saw something else. That I think it was the Sixers where they said Embiid and I guess Maxey, because they are going to be part of the decision-making process about the players that they bring in. And oh, man, that, okay. Hey, look, okay. They all have to get along for 6 months. So whatever, LeBron's already the de facto GM in Los Angeles. What happens? Let me ask you that. What happens if somebody, just for laughs, drafts his kid before
the Lakers' turn comes up? Yeah.
Is LeBron then going to want to, is he not going to sign a free agency contract till he sees what happens? Or is he going to then demand that they make a trade for his son? And, that's because I don't see him, I watched a couple games with him in USC, and he's okay. I don't know.
I've heard people say that he could defend at an NBA level today, which to me is not saying a huge amount because nobody in the NBA until the playoffs defends anyway. But
they can find a
good size, good strength, good agility. He can defend.
Yeah, okay, but they could find 100 guys in college basketball that can do that for probably a lot less money because there's going to be a premium on his name as well.
Yeah, so let's say you're the Toronto Raptors and you have pick number 48.
Yeah.
And you get to 48 and there's nobody left that's on your board that's even worth discussing.
Right. Yeah, because
LeBron not going to go to Toronto.
No, but if you think that he really wants to, you could do it because he could be the 14th or 15th player, not make a ton of money. And he's not, and he seems like a nice kid. He's not going to be a problem or anything like that. Or he could be an asset in a sense because now the Lakers want him. And you could get something from him.
And I've also read, Ted, recently that LeBron is backing off of that position a little bit. And I wonder if Bronny has gone to his father and said, "Hey, look, Dad, I love you. I understand that it would be kind of fun.
It'd be tough.
But Dad, it's going to be hard enough for me to make my own place in the NBA world. And for us to be on the same team, it would be impossible." Yeah. Is it possible that LeBron has said, "You know what? He's right. That's
possible. Yeah, it's possible." And then he has the heart thing. And I assume that with the medication and whatever treatment he has, hopefully all that's resolved and he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But that's something that. Why would you? Here's the thing. Why evolve? Because you can find guys like him. Do you really need to draft a kid?
And see, here's the thing, Ted. If you were, I'm trying to think of the right team. I'm trying to think of a team that is so close to being a title contender that maybe you would do it to try and lure LeBron in. Maybe. But I at this point in his career, I guess LeBron, I said earlier, he's still such a good player. Do you really even want to go down take the chance of LeBron then calling you and say, "Hey, I want to play with you now"? Because then you completely have to redo your roster.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of different. Things change because of the way he plays,
right?
And because then the money part,
let's say you're the Orlando Magic.
Yeah,
and he's been quoted saying he would retire rather than play in Orlando. So that's sort of the most extreme example. Yeah. But let's say you're the Orlando Magic. They've done a really nice job of putting pieces in place to make that team start to come to fruition.
Right.
Then let's say they have the 40th pick in the draft or 50th,
Right.
whatever, and Bronny's sitting there. You could, if you draft him and you thought LeBron's going to call, you could say, "Hey, LeBron, we're going to sign you," but you understand you're just one of 15 now. We're not making any other moves. You either fit into play with us or you don't, and don't come. There's not going to be any other discussion on that topic.
Wow. That's I don't think that's a conversation he's had since he was like 19.
I don't think he had it when he was 19 because he was playing with the Cavaliers then.
Yeah. They were. No, but I mean,
closer to 12 or 11 the last time he had anybody had that conversation with him.
I don't think that this is. I think he may have backed off of this a little bit.
I think so also. But let's say it happened. If you were the general manager thinking about drafting Bronny ahead of the Lakers, you'd have to be saying to yourself, okay, if LeBron calls me, I have to have the gumption to say to him, here's the deal. We're not making any other moves. This is the team. You want to play on this team? Come on board. We'd love to have you.
Well, you have to make some moves because the salary thing is going to get everything.
Maybe, but he is a free agent, Ted. And let's say you'd be willing to go $40 million over the salary cap to make it happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think this is going to be that big a deal. I think he's, like you said, I think he's staying in the Lakers.
Yes, I agree. I'd be shocked if he's not wearing a yellow and purple next year. Shocked.
And the only other place I think he would actually go is the Clippers because he doesn't have to then move.
Yeah, I think he wants to stay in LA. His business empire is blowing up, so I think he's staying right where he is. And it's just a question whether he's playing for the Clippers or the Lakers. I agree 100%. Yeah. And I just think from a basketball, and there's one other thing when it comes to LeBron, Ted. Tim Duncan, Kobe, so many of these really great all-time players played on one franchise.
Right.
If he were to move again, it starts to dilute a little bit.
Yeah.
And I also think he likes the historical prominence to play with the Lakers.
Well, the other thing is, I think I'm sure he says it's a championship, but I think he'd like to win a real championship.
One more.
Because that would at least put him every place he's gone, he's won.
And I would say this, I'm going to go down to my grave saying MJ is the GOAT, but if he got to 5 with everything else he's accomplished, it's a pretty strong argument.
I saw something from our guy Rick Barry who said there is no GOAT because the positions are different and the game is different. Yeah. You can't compare it. He says you can't compare eras. You can't compare, Wilt Chamberlain was a center. Jordan was he says it's really not the same thing.
And, the other thing I keep on saying, when Robbie and I used to have discussions about, I think there was a time when he said the Warriors with Durant were the greatest team ever. And he said, and I bring up the Chicago Bulls with Jordan. He would say, who's going to guard all those guys? Well, the question becomes, which rules are we going to play under?
Yeah, that's the first.
If we're going to play under the rules that the Bulls played under, and Pippen and Jordan can put their hands on Clay, and
not going to matter.
Yeah,
it's not going to matter then. Durant, Pippen and Jordan can cover anybody. Doesn't matter.
Right. So,
but if they can't grab and then it becomes a different thing.
Right, and if they're going to play with the 3-point shot and everything else.
Yeah.
It's the Warriors. So, 100%. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up there, Ted. Thank you to our fans for listening. Again, please check out our weekly podcast and follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also send us an email at grumpybrothersports@gmail.com. And with that, we'll say good night, and we promise to do better next time.